بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض أن تحبط أعمالكم وأنتم لا تشعرون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات بيجي محمد وعليكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. This is the post Shab Qadr, effects, if you want to call it, that we build up until the biggest night in the month of Ramadan, and then boom, there's a drop right after that night, but understandingly so. These are weekdays, and people have difficulty with managing all of the affairs as well as keeping up with their fast. And last night, obviously going all the way up until Fajr Salat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your ibadat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring closer to that which you had asked for, as long as it is according to the Shariat, and as far as that which you had asked for is within the means. The verse that I recited and for the discussion tonight, which is labeled as Muqaddasat in Islam. One of the concepts that Islam addresses, and any religion for that matter, is things which are considered holy. So those things which are held at a higher place, or there's some sort of grandeur, holiness, and taqaddus attached and associated with them. Similarly, in Islam, there are many things which are considered holy. They're considered sacred, and there's due diligence, or there's due respect when it comes to dealing with those things. The ayat that I chose for the discussion, there could have been many verses that I could have recited. For example, there are ayat of Quran which talk about the honoring certain things, or honoring certain people, or honoring certain anbiya, and all of them could have been made the sarnama kalam for the title of the discussion. But this ayat I chose, which is from Surah Hujurat, chapter 49, verse number 2, which is a well-known ayat, and I'm sure you've heard many times before, which is honoring and respecting the sacred. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah says, "O you who have faith, do not raise your voices above the voice of the Prophet, and do not speak aloud to him like you shout to one another, lest your works should fail without you being aware." One of the concept which you would say, well, how is it applicable to us? Because this was only in the time of Rasulullah, and Rasulullah is no longer alive. Therefore, this ayat would not really have any meaning to us. No, that is wrong. Because ayat and then the explanation and riwayat under the explanation of this ayat explain the fact very clearly that the hurmat of Rasulullah when he was alive is same as if, or even after his wafat. So if you are in the presence of Rasulullah, if you are in that place where he's buried, similar respect should be displayed as if he was alive in front of you. So there was an incident which is mentioned by Qadi Ayyad in his book Shifa. There's a discussion of Mansur al-Dawaniqi when he enters into the haram of Rasulullah, and Imam Malik is there, and he's the Imam of the time. And the discussion was that he comes in and he starts speaking out loud. Imam Malik turns to him and he says, "Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen," because Mansur al-Dawaniqi is the Amir al-Mu'mineen of the time. He said, "Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, You know, have you not heard that ayah? لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي. That ayah of Surah Hujurat, which says, don't raise your voices over the voice of Rasulullah. He said, yes, I've read this ayah, but Rasulullah is no longer alive. So he responded by saying, no. حرمته في الحياة كحرمته بعد الموت. His hurmat at the time of his life is similar to his hurmat and his respect even after his death. So don't raise your voice, because the effects of raising your voice in the presence of Rasulullah are same as they were when he was alive. What are the effects? It says, أَن تَحْبَطَ أَعْمَالُكُمْ. Your amal and your actions will be null and void, and you would not even understand, you won't even be aware of it. So what should I do? He said, you know, speak to Rasulullah, or speak in the presence of Rasulullah softly. Don't raise your voice. And secondly, he said, what should I face? Should I face the Qibla or should I face the grave of Rasulullah? Because if you have visited Medina, and if you have gone to the Masjid al-Nabi, you know, Qibla is in front of you, and Rasulullah's grave is on your left-hand side. That's where you exit from the door of Baqi and you go towards the Jannat al-Baqi. So he said, should I face Qibla or should I turn to Rasulullah? Imam Malik responds by saying that, لِمَا تُصَرِّفْ وَجْهَكَ عَنْهُ. Why do you turn your face away from Rasulullah? When your forefathers used to turn to him, such as Adam, such as other Anbiya, they used to turn to Rasulullah and they used to make dua, you know, doing the tawassul, alaykum salam, tawassul to him. So that was the discussion in it. But the ayat was revealed when some of the khulafa, of the companions of the Rasulullah, they were raising their voices in the presence of Rasulullah. And they were speaking to one another, how they would speak, you know, to one another, they were speaking to Rasulullah in the same fashion. And so the ayah says, do not raise your voice and do not speak aloud to him like you shout to one another. So there's one thing to speak above or, you know, by yourself. So you and I are having discussion in the presence of Rasulullah and we're raising our voice. That's one thing. Second, we're raising our voice talking to Rasulullah. That's another offense. So he said, no, these two things cannot be done. And that happened, you know, in the presence of these great companions, and Rasulullah had to dismiss the gathering, and this ayat was revealed. Similar thing happened in the time of, you know, near the wafat of Rasulullah, when he was on his deathbed. He asked, you know, give me a pen and a paper and I will write something which will, you know, you will not go misguided afterwards. People started quarreling, they started, you know, talking out loud, and it got to the point that Rasulullah said, you know, Qumu, get up and leave. Don't stay here, because I don't like this, you know, chatter, I don't like this, you know, raising of the voice in my presence. So we see that people, regardless of their belief, respect and honor their ancestors, especially if the ancestors had done something special in their lifetime. So therefore we honor them as well, because they are they're individuals whom Islam, whom Quran and Ahadith have greatly instructed us to go ahead and honor and respect them. They name cities, roads, universities, airports, schools, institutions after their name. So similarly, you and I do the same thing. We name our centers after our imams. We name our schools after our imam. We name all of these things, you know, based on or after our imams, not just naming our children, but also those institutions. If you live in a Muslim country, you would find, you know, the roads are also named after your ancestors. But, you know, it'd be surprising that even those who are the enemies, sometimes you find their roads also named after them as well. In Islam, there are many such personalities who are regarded very high and considered sacrosanct. In Islam, the root of sanctity and honor for anything is because of its affiliation with the holy essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing gains sanctity and sacredness and holiness if they're not connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's the root cause and that's the essence of all of the holiness in Islam. The more this affiliation, the honorable an object or person would be, and therefore we must pay due respect to it. And I'll give you an example. As we'll go along, inshallah, there will be many examples that come along the way, but I'll give you an example just so that we can clarify this concept. The respect that Rasulullah has, the respect that Masumin have, is due to the fact that their affiliation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the one who has, you know, given I don't want to use the word testimony, but have spoken highly about them, and therefore they became the means of respect for us. Similarly, that which is associated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it's a something, if it's a thing, it still has value to us. For example, this black house in the middle of Kaaba, in the middle of Mecca, in the midst of Masjid al-Haram, built by Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail. It has great value for us. It is one of the holiest sites in Islam, if not the holiest site in Islam. And people perform Hajj surrounding this Kaaba, and it is considered to be Baytullah. Because Allah has associated this house with Himself, therefore it has this value. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond time and space, right? He doesn't confine into a place, or He's not confined to a time period. He was there when there was no time, right? He created time. So for us to say that, He was there at that time and He wasn't at another time, that is a wrong concept. But we see that how ironic it is that Allah, who's beyond time and space, He associates time to Himself, and He associates a place to Himself. Time is Shahrullah, this month of Ramadan. He called this month of Ramadan to be Shahrullah, the month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can confine Him to any time, but He considered this to be His time. And then He associated a house to His name as well, which is Baytullah. That's the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't live in that house. He's not confined to the month of Ramadan, but nonetheless, these are two things which are associated with Him. When they are associated with Him, right away there's a level of respect. Even to this extent, maybe it may not be clear to some people, so I'll give another example. For example, the carpet that you're sitting upon, although it's a mambarga, but nonetheless, there's the value of it, but we understand the value how it is when it comes to a place which is called masjid. So, a carpet which you're sitting upon, when it was being sold at the shop, there was really, aside from the monetary value, it had no other value. You did not have to worry about if it got najas, had to clean it or anything for that sort. But the moment you bring and make it to be part of a masjid, now this carpet is elevated. Right away there's sacredness to this carpet. Right away it has holiness attached with it. For example, that you're standing in a masjid and the carpet of the masjid becomes najas and you're praying your wajib salat. If there's enough time in the salat and it will not be expiring, you should break your salat to go ahead and purify the masjid before you move forward. It's a mere carpet, yes. If you can clean it while you're praying, yes, do that. But if you cannot, break your salat, purify the place, and then go ahead and pray afterwards. The bricks and the walls that are making up this house of the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they had no value aside from the monetary value that they have when they were arresting the shop where you purchased them from. But the moment you bring them over here and you associate it with the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they become the part of this house and this masjid, right away it has this value. So here we see that anything that gets association and affiliation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right away it increases in its status. Why shouldn't you and I do the same thing, that get affiliated and associate ourselves 100% with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means disassociation with everything else, if we want the same sacredness as well. So there are inviolable in Islam. For example, Allah is the source of all sanctity. Polytheists who associate partners with Allah will admit their deviation on the day of judgment and would speak to their imaginary idol and say, إِذْ نُسَوِّيكُمْ بِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, when we equated you to the Lord of the worlds. So on the day of judgment they will be also admitting, we made a mistake, but it will be obviously too late. And there's a lot of talk about tasbih and glorification of Allah in Quran, which means God is impeccable and pure from any deficiency. Not only His essence is pure, rather His names are also impeccable. Sabbih isma rabbikal a'la. Glorify the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the name of Allah, which is a'la, which is exalted. Don't curse their false gods, otherwise they will curse your God as well. We read in Surah An'am 108, it said, La wala tasubbu alladhina yad'una min dunillahi fayasubbullaha adwan bighayri ilmin. Do not abuse those whom they invoke besides Allah. lest they should abuse Allah out of hostility without any knowledge. So if you're going to go ahead and throw a stone or, a boulder or anything, a pebble at them, or if you're going to strike them, remember, they'll strike back to you as well. Now, this does not come down to any other level. For example, you cannot do qiyas looking at this ayat of Quran and say, well, does that hold out to other personalities as well? No, you can't do qiyas. That means you can't say, well, there are certain individuals which are respected in the madhab of Ahl Tasannun, and they're not respected in Ahl Tashayyu. So does that mean this ayat hold out true over there? No, it is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That if you curse their gods, they will curse your God. And nothing could be compared in this reference. But, as our Maraja have given our instructions, we should not go ahead and poke fun or make mockery of their revered personalities. Why? In return, they will show a grudge, which will be for their own damage. But in reality, this will cause nothing but fitna. And hence, Muslims are asked to avoid fitna of any type. So therefore, this ayat is only exclusive for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but nonetheless, you should avoid mocking or being sarcastic toward the revered personalities of other madahib in Islam as well. So we're counting inviolable in Islam. One is Allah, who is the source of all sanctity. Number two, the book of Allah is also very sacred. That's why you see it on the topmost shelf. And I have a problem with that it being on the topmost shelf. The reason is, it's out of reach. The reason is that you hardly touch it. The reason is, the dust settles on it. The reason is, you may use it for tayammum one day. But that's not what this book of Allah was created for. It was created for you to keep it high as far as the standards and holiness is concerned. Not literally on a higher place. Yes, we give respect to Quran over any other book. So we don't want any other book sitting on top of Quran. That's understandable. But that's not the holiness which is being mentioned. The Quran is exalted and high. Not in terms of, on top of another book. We pay so much respect toward that. We won't put Quran on the floor, which is good. Teach that to your kid. We won't put any other book on top of Quran. That's good. Teach that to your kids. But what sanctity and the exaltedness of Quran mentioned is not in terms of physical aspect of it. Rather in terms of how this book is something which should be part and parcel of your daily life. So it is sacred. When God himself considers Quran to be great, then we should do so too. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ الْمَثَانِي وَالْقُرْآنَ الْعَظِيمِ. That indeed we have given to you 7 oft-repeated verses and the great Quran. Allah is calling something great. Hence, it has to be great. When God calls Quran noble, we should also make sure that Quran is noble in our perspective. إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ. Indeed, Quran is what? It is Kareem in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also considers Quran to be glorious. When he says what? وَالْقُرْآنِ الْمَجِيدِ. That it is the glorious Quran. So you have 3 attributes of Quran. Azim. Then you have noble Quran, and you have Majid, the glorious Quran. So yes, that is indeed a respect which is being given. Number 3, inviolable in Islam is God's emissaries. God's emissaries, God's messengers, God's awliya, those whom Allah has sent for guidance, the prophets and their true successors, especially our Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and his Ahlul Bayt, who possess a very special place. In the Surah Hujurat, which I recited in the beginning, some of the manners and the etiquettes regarding Prophet have been mentioned. He said, do not venture ahead of him. لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله. Do not raise your voice. لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي. Do not shout in his presence كجهر بعضكم لبعض, the way you shout in the presence of others. Instead, send salutations. Since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his angels are also sending salutations on the Prophet. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد. So, and since the verse is in the tone of present tense, yusalluna. So in Arabic you have past tense, you have present tense, and you have obviously fi'l amr, which is future. As in any language. You want to talk about something that happened last time, you'll use past tense. You want to talk about something that is happening right now, you're going to use present tense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran uses past tense, and as well as he uses the present tense. So in this case, he's using inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna. Salla is the past. Yusallu or salla yusalli, and then it's the plural of it. Yusalluna is the present tense, which is reflecting on what? That they are continuously doing this salawat and they're sending salutations on Prophet of Islam. So therefore, who do you send salutations on? The one who's considered to be high in our perspective. And therefore, Rasulullah's respect and his honor is when he was alive, similar to even after his death. So, respect and honor even after his death is intact. Similarly, the honor and the respect of the successors of Rasulullah, one way of showing respect is by following the commands and the commands of those righteous scholars who fit the criteria of adalat. And that is why we read in a hadith that if a person denies the command of a just faqih, it's as if he has denied the commands of the imams, and in return he has denied the commands of Rasulullah. And by denying the commands of Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, it is like denying the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we live in an era where our imam is not accessible to us. We live in an era when we cannot approach imam directly. We live in an era we cannot travel to certain distances and go see the imam of our time up until it is the mashiach of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that imam will reappear. But for example, the people that lived in the time of first 11 imams, they did not have that issue. And even in those times, there were these issues of traveling and going long distances. For example, people asked, sixth imam, people asked eighth imam, who was in Mashhad, who was in Marw, that, oh imam, it is very difficult because we live in Baghdad or we live in Medina for us to come and communicate with you. How do we get the answers to our question? Then imam pointed towards certain individuals. Go ahead and, get your information from Aban ibn Taghlab. Go ahead and ask from, for example, Hisham. Go ahead and speak to, for example, so-and-so. Imam gave names to some of their, companions, some of their students. He said, if I'm not there, go ahead and ask this person. Go ahead and ask this person. That tells you that even in the time of Imam Ma'asum, the concept of taqleed is going on. The concept of, referring to a jurist is going on. So that imam is alive, imam is present, but because he's so far away, because he's at a distance where normally people will not be able to go, or it would be difficult for them, what do? You go ahead and refer to this student of imam, or this scholar, or this companion of imam, whom imam has trusted himself. So this concept of following was there even in the time of imam. But it became more of a thing, more apparent after the occultation of Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. That following a just faqih, or not following a just faqih rather, is like denying Ahlul Bayt, is like denying Rasulullah, and in return it's like denying the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You say, well, what is this marjano? Well, he's done his work, and that's why you follow. See, the thing is, a lot of time we have difficulty acknowledging a lot of stuff. We are indirectly following one of the maraja. When you go to Hajj, where did you get all of the masail from? Well, I can understand. You say, well, I don't need to follow someone, for example, in my namaz. Because I was taught by my father or my mother. I know how to pray. I don't need to, learn how to pray, for example. That's something I don't need to follow a marja taqleed. Well, tomorrow when you go to Hajj, that's when I'll question you. Who are you following? If you were to say, well, I'm following Quran, it'll be a wrong answer. Because Quran does not talk about in details ahkam of Hajj. If you say, I'm following the hadith, I'll say wrong answer. Because you don't know how to derive the laws from the hadith, because there are a lot of contradictory stuff and there are a lot of sayings when it comes to you're doing things in a particular manner. That particular manner, where did you learn that particular manner? Oh, it's in that book. Who wrote that book? So-and-so is the author. So you have hard time acknowledging the fact that the author of that book is my marja taqleed. But you're going to go ahead and follow the ahkam that are documented by this individual. So that's the name of taqleed. Don't make it to be a big deal that, we're doing blind following. we've had these discussions before. Taqleed is essential in our religion. Actions aren't accepted unless one follows a jurist. Anyone who acts upon the ahkam hasn't learned those issues firsthand from Quran and Hadith. Therefore, indirectly, everyone is doing the taqleed. Just declaring it is something which remains. So go ahead and make this niyat that you follow so and so. And there's nothing wrong with it. You don't have to go ahead and announce it to the entire world. It is between you and, that marja or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You go ahead and get this book. You follow the ahkam based on the book which is written by him, because this book is the khulasa, this book is the summary of that which you will find in the extensive ahadith in Islam, or the extensive knowledge that is derived from the books of ahadith, which you and I do not have the expertise nor the time to go into. But it is a concept which is sometimes really is misunderstood. The example that we usually give is that we follow someone or experts in all areas of our life, but when it comes to religion, we say, well, no, I know enough deen. You should know enough deen to go ahead and be able to. That's why Islam did not shut the door upon you. It gave you the opportunity that either you go ahead and learn all the ahkam yourself, become a mujtahid yourself, or you go ahead and act on ihtiyat, or the easiest for all of us who are not experts, we are experts, for example, in other areas, should go ahead and follow and read this book, which has all of these things documented in them. So an example most of us probably have encountered is going to a doctor. When we encounter a medical problem, we inevitably seek out the best doctor who can treat us. For us to knowingly go to the second or the third or the fourth best doctor is against what? Our own best interest. That's why you say, well, refer to the best in the field, because there are different ranks. You can rank different doctors differently. So refer to the best physician in this area. Refer to the best, for example, cardiologist, if you have to get the open heart done, for example. If you have that option available, obviously. So you would not go ahead and pick the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth best when you had the option to go ahead and choose. Similarly, Islam says the same thing. When you have multiple ulama, choose the one who is the highest. Choose the one who's the best. Choose the one who's the most knowledgeable. And the way of, ascertaining who is more knowledgeable is not in the hands of laymen. Similarly, if you were to ask me who's the best doctor in so-and-so field, I will not be able to say this doctor or this doctor or that doctor, because I don't have the expertise. Who am I going to have to ask? I'm going to have to ask a medical student. I'm going to have to ask someone who's been in medicine to go ahead and point out to me which one of these cardiologists is probably the best in your perspective. Therefore, in Islam as well, you'll have to go ahead and ask a student of the deen to go ahead and point out which alim is, or which marja is the highest as far as the alamiyat of his is concerned. Insofar as religion is one of the academic pursuits, this practice of following expert necessarily applies to this discipline as well. In the Islamic context, it is called taqleed. The specialists in religious matters are called ulama. The ulama spend their entire lives studying religion sciences and then deducing the rules and the laws and producing it in a very oversimplifying manner for you to go ahead and follow. There's a discussion that has been coming about in a recent time. If it hasn't come, that's good, but if it has, it's good that we address that, and that is the discussion of usuli and akhbari. Akhbari are those who don't follow or who don't do taqleed to anyone other than Imam Masum. So, well, that's what I want to do, because I'd rather follow Imam Masum than anyone else. Who wants to follow Ghair Masum? Raise your hand. Nobody. We all want to follow that who's Ma'asum. But yeah, if that Ma'asum is in your reach, if that Ma'asum is within reach, then yes. If you have the choice, you're living in a time of sixth Imam, to follow the sixth Imam, or to follow, for example, one of his students, Aban ibn Taghlab. You say, well, I'll follow sixth Imam. Why would I follow his student? Because when Imam Ma'asum is there, it's like when you have water, you're not allowed to do tayammum. You must perform wudu. So when Imam Ma'asum is accessible, you're not going to go to anyone else. Akhbaris, they say, we don't follow anyone except Imam Ma'asum, which means that they have enough knowledge to extract the laws themselves from the book and hadith. No doubt, if you're able to go ahead and extract the laws from the books and hadith yourself, you're more than welcome to do so. But that is not the ability upon everyone. So prophets are sacred. Before I deviate from my topic, we were talking about muqaddasat in Islam. First, taqaddus or muqaddas thing in muqaddasat in Islam, inviolable, was Allah. Second was Quran. Third were prophets and masumeen. So prophets are sacred, and things that are associated with them are also sacred and honorable. So, well, yeah, Rasulullah is sacred. But the grave of Rasul, that's bid'at. How can that be sacred? No. Anything that is associated with Rasulullah becomes holy itself. The same way things were associated with Allah, this house of Allah became holy because it's associated with Allah. Similarly, Quran gives us enough proofs that the relics and the remnants of Anbiya are also what? Are sacred. And you can do tabarruk, and you can seek tabarruk from them, barakat from them. For example, chapter 2, verses 248 says, وَقَالَ لَهُمْ نَبِيُّهُمْ إِنَّ آيَةَ مُلْكِهِ أَنْ يَأْتِيكُمُ التَّعْبُوتُ فِيهِ السَّكِينَةُ مِنَ رَبِّكُمْ. And their prophet said to them, indeed, a sign of his kingship is that a chest will come to you in which is assurance from your Lord and a remnant of what the family of Moses and the family of Harun has left, carried by the angels. Angels are carrying a chest which has the relics belonging to Hazrat Musa and Hazrat Harun. And what will do? It will bring tabarruk, it will bring blessings to you. It will be a matter of blessings to you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala counts not Hazrat Musa himself, but rather the belongings of Hazrat Musa والسلام, and not just Hazrat Musa who is in Ul Azm Nabi, but even the belongings of Hazrat Harun to be something which is a matter of honor and respect. So in Islam, these things are also considered that which is associated with Masumeen to be sacred as well. So if certain clothes, certain asa of Hazrat Musa or different objects that belong to Hazrat Musa and Hazrat Harun are considered to be holy for this nation, then why can't be the grave of Rasulullah be considered holy and sacred for us? So keep track. We have Allah, we have Quran, we have Masumeen, we have Anbiya and Masumeen. Number 4, in Islam, parents enjoy a special honor and respect as well. 5 places in Quran, Allah mentions His Tawheed alongside with what? Ihsan to Walidain. 5 places. You worship me and you worship no one else, and you be kind to your parents. Moreover, being thankful towards parents has come next to being thankful towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Washkuru li wa li waliday, right? Thank me and your parents. So we see that respect towards parents goes beyond or goes to the extent that looking at them with love and mercy is a form of ibadat. Man nadara ila waliday nadar rahmatin, the one who looks at his parents with the rahmat, with mercy, it is considered to be what? Kataballahu lahu hajjan mabrura. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes for that individual who looks up to his father or looks up to his mother with respect and honor, a hajj, not an ordinary hajj, hajj mabrur. That hajj which is accepted and which is, accepted in the bargah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's that type of hajj. You and I have done hajj, we don't know if it's accepted or not. But hajj mabrur is something which is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every time you look up to your parents, with honor, with respect, with love. So you find that a travel which becomes the means of dissatisfaction of parents is considered haram. And one would offer full salat in such situation. So if you're traveling someplace and your parents are disagreement of you traveling over there, you're committing ma'asiyat. And you know the rule of traveling while doing ma'asiyat is what? That you must perform your salat full. It will not be considered qasr. So I'll move forward because I'm running out of my time. Number 5, in Islam, certain times and places are considered to be sacred and holy as well. One of them was Laylatul Qadr, last night that you spend time, and the other nights which are mentioned in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Certain places such as Masajid, certain stones such as Hajar al-Aswad, certain waters such as Zamzam, certain sand like the Turbat of Imam Hussein, certain dresses like Ihram are considered holy and sacred and therefore must be dealt with utmost honor and respect. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Hazrat Musa والسلام, was entering Wadi al-Tuwa, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him what? He said, فَخْلَعْنَ عَلَيْكَ إِنَّكَ بِوَادِ الْمُقَدَّسِ الطُّوَى. Usually I remember the story that I read once about one of the sultans of the Ottoman Empire, Sultan Suleiman. He had, many of these Ottoman Empire or Ottoman sultans, while their other lives were maybe, messed up, but still they showed and paid respect to awliya Allah. So once he was passing through Najaf, and he said to his people that, there's the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen, let's go ahead and pay a visit to it. The Qadi who was along with him was a, very ta'assubi, muta'assib person, prejudice against Ahlul Bayt, grudge against Ahlul Bayt. He said, you're the Sultan of 7, lands, and you're the Sultan of the world, and you are Amir al-Mu'mineen yourself, and you're Khalifatul Muslimin yourself. It is not, up to your honor to get down and go visit another awliya Allah. He said, well, this is the Qadi who he has to listen to. He said, let's do istikhara. Let's ask Allah's opinion in this reference. Should I go visit Ali or not? Because I'm close by. And the Qadi was pressing so hard not to let him go. They do istikhara. The ayat that comes out says, فَخْلَا inni. It says, إِنِّي أَنَا رَبُّكَ فَخْلَا نَعَلَيْكَ إِنَّكَ بِوَادِ الْمُقَدَّسِ طُوَى. That, O Musa, you are in a sacred valley. Remove your shoes before you enter. He turned to his Qadi and he said that Allah wants me to remove my shoes and go visit this awliya Allah whom you are asking me not to go ahead and visit because I'm too good for him. So obviously he dealt with the Qadi in one way, but we find that the taqaddus of visiting Amir al-Mu'mineen to the person who is the Sultan of Alam at that time is to remove your shoes because you are entering in a sacred place. So we see that Masjid al-Haram is a holy site. Therefore, polytheists are not allowed to enter. It said, إِنَّمَا الْمُشْرِكُونَ نَجَسٌ فَلَا يَقْرَبُوا الْمَسْجِدَ الْحَرَامِ. Places of worship, masajid, are sacred as well. If one wants to enter, must do so in purification, but you cannot enter in the state of najasat. Masajid are also so sacred that people such as Ibrahim, Ismail, Zakaria, Maryam salamullahi alayhim ajma'in are responsible for purifying it. All of these things are considered to be sacred and holy in Islam. So there is a lot of muqaddasat that we find in our deen. And lastly, number 6, which I'll conclude with, a person with faith and iman. So you have Allah, which is the source of all sacredness. You have the book of Allah. You have Anbiya, and you have the Ma'asumin. You have parents, and you have certain sites which are holy in Islam. And there's a list which is longer beyond that. But last but not least, a person with faith and iman is also holy and honorable, so much so that the honor is considered to be more than the honor of Ka'batullah. The honor and the hurmat of a mu'min is above the honor and the hurmat of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Harassing and backbiting is haram, defending him is wajib, and even after his death, digging his grave is not permissible. I had more stuff to go, but I think the time for namaz is approaching. So we understand in this brief discussion that these are the things which are considered holy in our religion, and therefore there's a respect of honor that is expected from us. Therefore we should make sure that whenever we come across these things or these individuals, we show utmost respect towards them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to follow his commands, give us the tawfiq to follow the footsteps of Ma'asumin alayhi salatu wassalam, hasten the zuhur of our awaited Imam, make us amongst the helpers and soldiers. Wa akhir dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Please recite Surah Fatiha and 3 times Surah Ikhlas for the marhumin of tonight's sponsors. Surah Fatiha.
سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين علي ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين علي حجة الله هيا على الصلاة هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح هيا على الفلاح هيا على خير العمل هيا على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله اللهم جل خير بار وعمل صار والشفار والاسكتار وأولاد يبرر وجليل خير نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مستخرا وخرارا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. استغفر الله وأتوب إليه. الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بذلك الله ربي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار بجاه محمد وآله الأطهار. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم. أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. وهذا شهر عظمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور، وهو شهر الذي فرضت صيامه عليه، وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من ألف شهر، فيا ذا المن ولا يمن عليك، من علي بفكاك رخبتي من النار في من تمن عليه، وادخلني الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقول. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. ذلك الله ربي. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين بجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقود. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم أسخل على أهل القبور السرور. اللهم أغن كل فقير. اللهم أشبع كل جائع. اللهم اكس كل عريان. اللهم اقض دين كل مدين. اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب. اللهم رد كل غريب. اللهم فك كل أسير. اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من الأمور المسلمين. اللهم اشف كل مريض. اللهم صد فخرنا بغناك. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك. اللهم اغز عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا أخي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك وعلى جدك وأبيك وعلى أمك وأخيك ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب والغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وأنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بعرض توصل ابن موسى رضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا مؤمن والجار. السلام عليك يا شريك وسهل الله ظهورك وجعلنا من صارك ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Are you going to eat with mom? No, I'm going to go outside for a second, and then I'm going to make me a plate. And then I'm going to come back. But I am coming outside for a second.
I know, it's been a long time. How you been? Alhamdulillah. She's doing well. She's getting over it. Inshallah, you know, we're here tonight, but inshallah we'll see you again. Yeah, no, he's doing it.
I don't know if that's ideal, but it does the job, right?
कल भी मेरा रिकॉर्ड बना रहे थे
Ali was actually in work today. He met Ali there, remember? Yeah, I think you also offered him some water. You did? Yeah, and then we decided to go to his Mahmoud house. So he's in New York. Yeah. Well, I didn't quite drop him, but his mama was there, so he just took him to his house in the train.
When would he come back?
I think he would be here on Monday. Yeah, I know. I think he has to look at that.
Hi, Appa. I on it. Do I have to? You see on the screen? I on it. I on it. Don't touch it. Fan up करो.
Alice, where's the bell?
What? What bell?
The bell.
Oh, the bell.
Yeah, that's what I said.
First on this. Wait a minute, let me undo it, and then I can. I'm going to the screen at them. I on it. It's getting frozen. No more energy. Wait a minute. Yep, that's coming. Until it gets whole boiling. I don't. Check in the kitchen. It must be in the kitchen on top.
Can you scream? Do I feel sorry? Let me get so loud that way. Abis! Abis, you're good.
पेटेंट मेंबर ठीक करो. सलाम अलैकुम.
I think they're coming, and I don't know. I yell is so loud.
And then no. You have seen the alarm. training, right? Abis? Yeah? ये हमारा छोटा ट्रेन हो रहा है, इसका नाम है आबिद रूपानी। इसके साथ मिलकर सीख रहा है। ये 11th ग्रेड गया है। अब आप इसकी दुआ सुनेंगे कितना अच्छा करता है। दुआएं तो मैं
I think he recited once in Astana, right?
once.
Yes, he's the same.
He's better main movie.
I think I
He
told
takes
him.
care of the camera,
Right?
he takes
I
care of
had
the
met you
duas,
outside.
everything he takes care.
Yes.
And his husband.
ये इसकी माँ है। अकबरी।
Yeah, I think I met her too. And that is her grandma, right?
Grandmother,
Yes.
yes. And he is the mother's grandmother, similarly. I met her in Astana. So he manages.
I try my best telling her.
He does the YouTube, he does the camera, mashallah. Since he like, dua and everything. Mashallah, all the training goes to the mother and grandmother.
The camera look.
Yeah.
I'm on the TVs, okay?
Watch from others.
That's why I'm on the TVs. Huh?
What?
On the TVs.
We have started. 9:45 was full.
Only one TV is off. The other one's off.
Okay, go ahead.
He doesn't open up.
Abis, go and call all the uncles. Dua is starting.
Này con tôi mới tới thương nhân thợ hậu lên trời thì nó hết chỗ nó cái này với cái của cái nó hết như bán thì rất cái bệnh tôi né vào này nó rồi nè đó thì phải là
खाते नहीं बाहर है नहीं कोई भी नहीं है बाहर ही
अभी ये तारों
मेरा
को
बाप कुछ चाहिए तो बोल
तारों को
है बाबा इधर से बोल रहे हैं मेरा
Side का button here. Side. Click करो. I mean, I'm his teacher. He doesn't know how to respond.
It's okay. Kau ni yang pandai.
While I'm reading. Can आपको देखना PowerPoint में देखना. Side button. How about?
Kau tu nama orang terus kau itu.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم رب شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن وافترضت على عبادك فيه الصيام صل على محمد وآل محمد وارزقني حج بيتك الحرام في عامي هذا وفي كل عام واغفرني تلك الذنوب العظام فإنه لا يغفرها غيرك يا رحمن يا علام اللهم صل بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك وأنت مسدد لثواب بمنك وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنخمة وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة اللهم أذنتني في دعائك ومسألتك فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي وأخر يا غفور عزتي فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها وهموم قد كشفتها وعثرة قد أخلتها ورحمة قد نشرتها وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك ولم يكن له ولي من ذل وكبره تكبيرا الله أكبر الله أكبر أكبر الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها على جميع نعمه كلها الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه ولا منازع له في أمره الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه ولا شبيه له في عظمته الحمد لله الفرش في الخلق أمره وحمده الظاهر بالكرم مجده الباسط بالجود يده الذي لا تنقص خزائنه ولا يزيد الكثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما إنه هو العزيز الوهاب اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير ما حاجة بي إليه عظيمة وغناك عنه خديما وهو عندي كثير وهو عليك سهل يسير اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي وسبحك عن ظلمي وسترك عن قبيح يمني وحلمك عن كثير جرمي عندما كان من خطاي وعمدي أسمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك الذي رزقتني من رحمتك وأريتني من خجلتك وعرفتني من إجابتك فصرت أدعوك منا وأسألك مستأنسا لا خائفا ولا وجلا مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك فإن أبت عني اعتبت بجهلي عليك ولعل الذي أبت عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور ولمر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لي منك علي يا رب إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك كأنني أتطول عليك فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي وتفضلي علي بجودك وكرمك فارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك إنك جواد كريم الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الأخلاق باسط الرزق خالق الصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام الذي وعد فلا يرى وخرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله ولا شبيه يشاكله ولا ذهين يعادده. قهر بعزة الأعزاء وتوادع لعظمته العظماء فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناتي ويسر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصي ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازي. فكم من موهبة هنية قد أعطاني وعديمة مخوفة قد كفاني وبحجة مونقة قد أراني فأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد السائل ولا يخيب عامله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويدعو المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبين الظالمين مدرك الغاربين نقال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على عبد محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وسفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وكمال وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم صل على نبي المؤمنين ووسيل رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على صديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين. وصل على سبتي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي حججك على عبادك ومنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم صل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بالروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل على اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك. استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله. مكن له دينه الذي ارتديته له. أبدله من بعد خوفه يمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به ونصره وانتصر به وانصره نصرا عزيزا وافتح له فتحا يسيرا واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا يسيرا. اللهم أذر به زينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملنا وما خسرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم انمم به شعثنا واشعب به صدعنا وارتق به فتقنا وكثر به قلتنا وعزز به ذلتنا واغن به عائلنا واخذ به عن مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به قلتنا ويسر به عسرنا وبيد به وجوهنا وفك به أسرنا وأنجح به طلبتنا وأنجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وعاتنا به سؤلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وأعتنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المؤتين. اشف به صدورنا وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واحدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا. وصل على محمد وآله وعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله وبضر تكشفه ونصر تعزه وسلطان حق تظهره ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم برحمتك في الصالحين فادخلنا وفي عليين فارفعنا وبكأس من معين من عين سلسبيل فاسقنا ومن الحور العين برحمتك فزوجنا ومن الولدان المخلدين كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون فاقتبنا ومن ثمار الجنة ولحوم الطير فاطعمنا ومن ثياب السندس والحرير والاستبرق فالبسنا وليلة القدر وحج بيتك الحرام وقتلا في سبيلك فوفق لنا وصالح الدعاء والمسألة فاستجب لنا وإذا جمعت الأولين والآخرين يوم القيامة فارحمنا وبراءة من النار فاكتب لنا وفي جهنم فلا تغلنا وفي عذابك وهوانك فلا تبتلنا ومن الزقوم والذريع فلا تطعمنا ومع الشياطين فلا تجعلنا وفي النار على وجوهنا فلا تكببنا ومن ثياب النار وسرابيل القطران فلا تلبسنا ومن كل سوء لا إله إلا أنت بحق لا إله إلا أنت فنجنا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتختم بالأمر المحتوم في الأمر الحكيم من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل، أن تكتبني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم المشكور سعيهم المغفور ذنوبهم المكفر عنهم سيئاتهم، وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتختر أن تطيل عملي في خير وعافية وتوسع في رزقي، وتجعلني ممن تنتصر بي لدينك ولا تستبدل بي غير. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان، أن يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى وارث يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، السلام عليك يا أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان وشر الشيطان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى أبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
भाई से मिले Did you meet? Yeah. Mr. Jafri. We used to go to Moulana, remember? Michelin Manu in that hotel, and we used to stay there long time ago. Now we meet up again. I'm so happy. I've seen you someplace. I've seen, you know. Allah, you know, brought all of us back together again. I'm so happy. So where in Freehold? Freehold here by Vicksburg Court. What's the name of the street? Vicksburg. So that address not much. 20 minutes.
Should I pick all of these books?
VICAS B-U-R-G, Court. Abis? Yeah, Abis it. That's Abis' dad, you know. Yeah. Same report.
6.3. 12 minutes.
Adelphia Road. Yeah. Adelphia Road. Okay. Now I'm a Obadi, so you know. Anytime, yeah. I know how to get money.
Wherever you want to go.
And now I wanted to put now in morning her and you to be involved in the school, like Bhaji was a principal.
Yeah. Oh, you ran away. You went to Florida.
Yeah. So now people want to work to be involved in the school.
We are getting old.
She used to be the one. Their son is here with 3
We are
kids.
here for retirement.
Yeah.
But we will be here.
That's why we need somebody, support people. Yeah, we need a support.
That's all right.
We need a support. We sold our house, our business, and my son said, no, they have a partnership.
Yes.
Now we all be in touch, we happy. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Even that one more, we are feeling cut off now. We have some people we know. Okay, I got her, meet Salma, because they know, Salma's, grandchildren come to the Hussein. With Mumtaz Dada's son.
Yes.
So as it has not that we used to be principal for so long.
Yes.
So, we were all good friends. Mumtaz's son, my son, Ali, and, all these kids.
Please come tomorrow also.
Tomorrow, please. Yes, inshallah, we'll come tomorrow. Inshallah. Yes, and I like your program.
Very focused.
For me, program is good that one person is there, the
I
one
tell you what,
is
there used to be an island for the Irfan very munazara and
yes, friends with him. Actually, my daughter, Sakina,
everybody is praising him for
Arda is my coach. Sorry, I have
so
they invited
him, they gave him the amount he went
and
there
then
and all
the
that.
Shirin was having pain.
So the first one is,
And then she was home. She became my coach.
Your businessman, return on investment, right? You're spending time just to, sort of the car, right? So the first one is, everybody is sitting with the walls, they know Wawa and all.
So I was
So he comes down to the member and says, how was it on this?
anybody, now
They agreed on.
very good friends.
Yeah.
Sajida and my daughter.
So I tell you, it's not connected. So he said, for that you need audience. You need that kind of audience.
He said, Moulana
So I said, all right, you need to bus your people from Ancholi. Ancholi is a suburb of Karachi. So these people in Hawaii and bus
now that's
before Moulana invented the symbol, Wawa. So then he comes down. How was my audience today? So yesterday we couldn't understand. Today we couldn't even listen.
it was not good at all.
Allah is
The
so
teachings of Alibi need focus and concentration. Yes, we need some effervescence, but it has to be meaning.
Right.
It's unlike Moulana and Rizvan. He's on the top.
your mother is a
Very nice. It's not very hard to say. He has to prepare, right. Then he's all right.
My son is getting married. Yes.
focus. One time he recited Hassan.
Put my number.
He gave me your seat today to stand there. Thank you. You nice. Really nice. Super excellent.
And he's so dedicated. You see, all the kids are playing.
I know.
We come and do it.
There is always somebody.
Put my name.
I'm very happy.
You have worked hard. Very good. More than that, responsibility. People every day, people want to play off. I know. So the focus, and he's going to achieve a lot in his life.
Inshallah, we pray for that too, and he will.
He's going to achieve a lot in his life. You are giving him blessings. Yesterday, he decided more than half for Joshua Kabir. Every day, old people get tired.
I know.
So actually, I want some people to decide, you want to keep reciting.
Wix hub. V-I-C-K like Wix.
If you have few kids like that, the community will be all changed.
V-I-C-K-S.
Wix. Yeah, Wix.
Just pray for his success, inshallah, and go on life and help.
Wix court.
This will be brothers up there.
I'm from New York. You know Sydney, you have been there?
077.
It's a big mosque about
I'm here in
700
neighborhood
people.
only.
I used to control that too. I was a secretary, I was a mukhi, I was a treasurer. I mean, whichever year I was elected, I was there. I didn't become the president. Too much politics. But alhamdulillah, everything, as a mukhi, I was controlling Rizvan and food and everything. Oh, by the way, if you need my help here, I was really looking forward to help the elders here, because I see nobody was around. But inshallah, sorry.
I know, because you're businessman, you have to have that business ethics.
I know.
How do people, you see how many people are there? You're the only one who's there. This thing has been related, people are waiting for that, last year, why did you start 2 minutes late, 3 minutes late? Because people are not only in line, they're waiting in line. So, how many people showed up? Slowly coordinating.
No, but listen, doctor. The only thing is, if you keep your timing. Forget about the people who will want to come, they will come.
That's right.
And just before the Malis or anything, just tell them at this time, we're starting. If you want, then Moram, they are good.
Yeah, you have to because the whole 1.5 or 2 hours of
That's what I heard. The only thing is in Ramadan. In Ramadan, they are doing. But that is what I was hearing. The timing is very good. We went to Imam Ali too. Alhamdulillah, that's good too, because we have some people from North Jersey. But I think
you're the only one who's really after so many years. There are a lot of people, like you see MFI, MFI was not there. They had a small house.
right.
She got 16.
High time, Red Bus is there, all the community, a lot of people. And if you do right program, people will. Yesterday they said the collector because they start starting a school.
Inshallah, you will see. Yes, inshallah. I wish you came earlier.
Last night we said yes.
Somebody else is there. Rizvi.
No, and we have
He's got a hard visa, religious visa. Religious visa is different than just visa. Once you get a hard visa, you got a hard visa first. So now for 10 years. But now they will not renew it. They will go to the top. They have to come and play, they have to follow, they're very strict.
I will pull it down.
Came to my office and
I didn't understand
they tried to call from the embassy. Very big process. So it takes a long time. Now, inshallah we get it. But 3 years he did Moulana first year. And he would become prepared to qualify.
Yeah, that is the best. That is the best. And then people really enjoy it.
And you will explain. Related hadith, related Quranic ayat, verse, 3 years he did only could finish half. Rizvan is talking, make my Akbar al-Yaqeen, make my Yaqeen the perfect Yaqeen. So he's talking what is Akbar means, perfection. What is the point that means perfectly? Then he goes into Yaqeen. What is Yaqeen? Different levels of Yaqeen, Akbar Yaqeen, Yaqeen. So it's a very good job.
How many people already on big nights?
Oh, this is quite a few actually. So now on the Google Live, very nice, very not fast, very proper, very good research of Quran. So we did that. Then we have their documentation. So we have given us time. If we have not can I serve you any beer right now?
No, I had it. Thank you.
Nice to see you, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, see something now we are having.
Okay, you are smiling. I'm happy.
Now we are not alone. Inshallah we'll meet you. And inshallah we'll continue.